This is not going to work.
Thank you. Okay, good evening and welcome to the Town of Eastchester Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for June. Tonight is Tuesday, June 13, 2023. We start our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, while we're settling in, I usually take this time to go over the ground rules. So first things first, as of all our meetings, tonight's meeting is conducted under Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Order, which among other things, we take action based on motion, resolution, and a vote. Thank you. New applications are not decided upon tonight. That's one of the terms and conditions that's printed on the application. When the public has an opportunity to speak, they'll be recognized by the chair, and you'll state your name and address for the record, and you'll be generally given broad latitude based on the chair's discretion. Another point of order, we do not accept any new correspondence once the matter is closed to the public hearing. Before I call the roll, I have a couple of motions. The first motion is to approve the minutes of the May 9, 2023 meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cahalan, all in favor?
Aye.
I also have a chair motion to adjourn the July meeting so that the next meeting will not be July, but rather September. We do not meet in August. Is there a second to my motion?
Second that.
Mr. Cahalan, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And while we're talking about the calendar, our calendar is printed roughly a year in advance, and you'll have the fall calendar has been out for some time now, so if anyone at home who's watching is planning an application, you'll know that there is a September, October, and November meeting. We do not meet in December. Okay. Now, for the roll, we have 2 items on for resolution, and 1 item that was on for resolution is adjourned, which I'll get to in a moment. I just want to take a roll on the new business. Application 23-20, 65 Hickory Hill. Is the applicant here and prepared to proceed? Thank you. And application 23-21, Milmont Pharmacy. Is the applicant here? And you ready to proceed? Thank you. Okay. Now, on to the adjourned application. Application 2304, which was 28 Reynolds, was initially placed on the February calendar, but has been listed as adjourned several times due to deficiencies in the application. The application has remained as adjourned while the staff worked with the applicant in an attempt to finalize and complete an application that accurately showed the requested variances. The applicant was able to do so and has since abandoned the application. Therefore, I make a motion to adopt a resolution to remove 23-04, 28 Reynolds Place from the future meeting agenda and marked off the calendar without prejudice, with the understanding that the applicant may reapply for the variances at a later date. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Mr. Cahalan, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, on to the resolution calendar. Firstly, I move to adjourn application 23-15, that's Sal's Market and Pizzeria, 751 White Plains Road, and that's been, and my motion includes moving that to the September 12th, 2023 calendar for further consideration. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Mr. Miller, all in favor? Aye. And as a note to that adjournment, the applicant will be amending his application, or he stated that he is amending his application, and the applicant will be renoticing as if it were a new application, so the public hearing will undoubtedly be reopened at that time based on the new information that will be marked submitted. Okay, on to resolution item number 2. I make a motion to adopt the resolution of approval for application 23-16, 38 Tuckahoe Avenue. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Cahalan, to the vote. Mr. Cahalan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Nerzia?
Yes.
I vote yes. That application has been approved 4-0. Last item on the resolution calendar, I make a motion to adopt the resolution of approval for application 23-17, 16 Reynolds Place. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nerzia, to the vote. Mr. Cahalan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Nerzia?
Yes.
I vote yes. That's been approved 4-0. Okay. Now, for the two new business items, I know our applicants, our representatives of the applicants are well-versed in Eastchester and how we operate, but just for the viewing public, the matter is now marked submitted as a public record. All of the documents are part of the public record, so you don't need to read your entire application or the 5-part test. If you would like to, you're free to do so. It won't hurt your application. It won't help. I would ask that a better practice would probably be just to summarize, and then the board would have an opportunity to ask questions, and the public would be heard, and then there'd be an opportunity to have any rebuttal or reply, and then the board would wind up. So anyway, having said that, let's start with application 23-20, 65 Hickory Hill Road. If you can come and give your name and address for the record. And this, while you're doing that, this is an area variance for a 1-story front addition.
Good evening. I'm Stephanie Malensky with SM Architecture Studio. I'm presenting on behalf of my clients. The house is at 65 Hickory Hill Road. We're requesting a variance for front yard setback. Because the house is located at the end of a cul-de-sac, well, close to the end of the cul-de-sac, the front property line is very irregular. You can see in the aerial photo. So due to this irregularity, a small section of the addition will be over that front yard setback. I highlighted it in orange. It's only 135 square feet. The addition at this area is only 1 story, and it will be hidden from the neighbors by the arborvitae you can see in that lower photo. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for your submission and your presentation. To the board for any questions or comments, Mr. Cahalan?
None.
Mr. Miller?
None.
Mr. Nerzia?
None.
I don't have anything at this time. I make a motion to open this matter to the public for a public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cahalan, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Would anyone from the public like to be heard? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I make a motion to close the public hearing on this. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Cahalan, all in favor?
Aye.
Because I'm bound by duty to ask, we'll start to the right. Mr. Nerzia, anything?
No questions?
Mr. Miller?
Nope.
Mr. Cahalan?
Nothing.
I think you've sufficiently answered for my review the 5-part test, and certainly in conformity with the neighborhood, and certainly not a detriment. So I make a motion to adjourn this application for resolution at the next meeting, which is September. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, last item on the calendar. This is 23-21 Wilmot Pharmacy, 199 Brook Street. And I'll have you, if you don't mind, Mr. Yanis, we'll give you your name and address for the record, even though we know what it is.
Okay. Good evening. My name is John Yanacito. I'm an architect, and I'm representing 199 Brook LLC, the owners of the subject property.
And if you may, because there's several variances, if you could just give a brief synopsis of what it is,
Sure.
just for the viewing public. Thank you.
So we're proposing a 1-story addition at the rear of the existing 1-story structure located at 199 Brook Street, which is highlighted in yellow on the survey. The existing property is currently non-conforming with respect to the following zoning requirements: front yard setback, rear yard setback, both side yard setbacks, building coverage, total number of off-street parking spaces, and total number of off-street loading spaces. The proposed addition will create an increase to these non-conforming conditions, and we are requesting the following area variances. The first is for a rear yard setback, where the proposed is 9.75 and the required is 30 feet. The second is for the first side yard setback, where the existing and the proposed is 0 and the required is 10. The third is for a second side yard setback, where the existing and proposed are 0 and the required is 10. The fourth is for building coverage, where the existing non-conforming coverage will be increased by 500 square feet. The fifth is for the off-street parking space, where the existing non-conforming parking will be increased by 3 parking spaces. And the sixth is for the off-street loading space, where 1 space is required and 0 is provided. The proposed addition will be constructed in a landlocked rear yard on the property, which is at a lower elevation than the neighboring properties, and is also defined by retaining walls on both the side and the rear property line. So it's separated by the higher properties with retaining walls. It's kind of a sunken-in piece of property at the back. That's where we're proposing the addition. The proposed massing and materials will all match existing, so will be in keeping with the character of the existing structure. The additional square footage is needed for the pharmacy to replace some office space that was converted to exam rooms over the past few years to provide vaccines for their customers. This is an owner-operated small family business which has served the neighborhood for many years. The additional square footage is needed to provide additional pharmaceutical needs for their customers, and also to compete with the larger pharmacies in the neighborhood, like the CVS's and the Walgreens. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer
Thank
any
you for your
questions.
presentation. Before we open up to the rest of the board members, I just have one question. So they're expanding for storage, or?
No, so we're gonna, so the expansion is gonna be for new office space.
Okay,
Because they had to, for the past couple of years, when they started allowing vaccines to be distributed in pharmacies, they had to convert some of their office spaces that they currently had in their square footage to exam rooms to provide vaccines for their customers.
I see.
So now they had this staff room at the back of the space, which they started using for staff and office space. So they need to replace that office space and continue to have exam rooms to continue to provide vaccines for both flu and COVID.
I see.
Over the coming years, just like they do in every other pharmacy.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Yanacito. Mr. Cahalan, any questions or comments?
How's this going to be accessed?
How is it going to be accessed? So I'll come over there and go through the plan. So here's the floor plan. So currently in the pharmacy, the front part of it is display aisles and display shelves. Then here is the counter for the pharmacy, and then the pharmacist station behind the counter. These 2 small spaces were currently used as offices in the past. Now they're used as exam rooms for providing vaccines. This space here was a staff room, which became a combination of staff and office space now. So it's just not enough space. So they're going to continue to use this as a staff room and then move their offices to primarily have 3 offices for the 2 owners and 1 additional pharmacist to have their private little cubicles in that space so they can just do their business there when they're not at the front counter. And then there will be a door at the back which will allow access, steps down to an entrance into the basement, and then also an entrance up which will have access into the adjoining parking lot just for emergency egress.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything further, Mr. Cahalan?
No.
Mr. Miller?
No, I mean, obviously, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 variances with 100, that are at 100%. It's kind of a big lift for me. Maybe you want to convince me a little more on them.
Yeah, so the current side yard setbacks are at 0 right now. I mean, there's no, to provide the 10-foot setbacks for the 2 side yards, there's no space left. I mean, the lot's 25 feet wide, so you'd have a 5-foot space in the middle that would be usable if it wasn't aligning with the existing. What was the third 0, the 100%? Well, the 100% for zoning, for the loading. So there is no existing loading space right now. So that's really not changing from what's required today. So those 300% are the same 100% today. It's just the nonconformity is being extended further back into an area that's really a useless part of the lot that nothing can be done back there because it's landlocked. It's much lower than the adjoining property where the parking lot is and the property on Summit Street There is access to the neighboring property right across, but you'd have to cross over to their property in order to get back up to the street. So you really can't use that as any type of egress.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Nersia?
No questions.
Well, usually I reserve some commentary till after the public has an opportunity to be heard, but there's no one here, so there's no sense in making a motion since there's no one from the public to be heard.
Just
So,
one other thing I
Please.
might point out is that they're not looking to provide any additional staff or increase their sales space. It's just really office space that they need because they had to use these exam rooms for vaccines.
right.
So they're not looking to add any additional pharmacists there or any additional staff. It's going to be, all the amount of staff there is going to be exactly the same. And the parking, there's parking available at the adjacent lot, metered parking. There's also metered parking on the street where they don't have an issue with it today. They have plenty of parking for the pharmacy today. So they don't see any real increase to their need for parking, even though the calculations show there's going to be a need for 3 additional parking spaces.
Thank you, Mr. Yanacito. As a matter of fact, that was really where I was going, because we do have some areas in town where the use is non-conforming, and it's been non-conforming, like Garth Road, we have this frequently. So when you're increasing the non-conformity, of course, you have to come before us, but everything to me seems very consistent with the current use. Like the carpet store on the corner, they all frequently will use that parking lot to load and unload, and also their patrons will use it. And here, you're really just expanding so that you can be, it seems like, have more space, which is doing the same services that, let's say, are going on at CVS, in just a smaller space. So anyway, you've answered some of my questions as it relates to the 5-part test and how it's going to affect the community, et cetera. So I'm comfortable to make a motion at this point to adjourn it for resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Kalin, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
All right, enjoy the summer.
thank you very much. Okay, so that's my last act for the summer. I make a motion to adjourn. I wish everyone a good summer, and we're coming back in September. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
Mr. Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.